we get to the Naso village, which is just the middle of absolutely nowhere again. Immediately we're thrown into a council meeting. So they have a palace there. I'm not talking, I'm trying to film the best I can, and I see the king on his throne. You know, his throne is just one massive piece of wood that was carved into a throne, and the top of it has a harpy eagle, and there are two massive pumas that rise on the sides of him that go towards his shoulders, like what he's leaning on. And the two pillars in front of him of the throne also have pumas on them. They are pumas. The pillars are pumas. And
welcome to Whiskey and a Map. Stories of adventure and exploration as told by those who live them. Described as a never-ending green hell, and by others as the most beautiful, biodiverse place on the planet, the jungles of Panama attract the best and the worst of mankind. In this episode, conservation photographer Joshua Asel recounts his adventure into the jungles of Panama's Darian Gap to embed with the indigenous tribal rangers and support their efforts to counter large-scale poaching of wildlife and timber on their lands. Joshua, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Great to be here. How's everything with you?
Everything is good. Summer's coming up and getting ready for a trip to Morocco. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I've been dying to go to Morocco. Just a side note, it's like, it just seems so cool to me. The culture there seems amazing. I really want to check it out at some point. So I'm a little jealous right now, but I hope you have a great trip.
Well, for a photographer like you, it'd be a dream because of, you have the architecture and you have just a vast variety of environments to photograph. Okay, so you're going into the jungle and what happens?
Right. So, this is day 3. You wake up in the morning, 8 o'clock, we're out of our weird little hotel and we're going on a journey. We pick up the commander and we're driving down this highway in the middle of the jungle and we see a Chinese logging company. And these are the people that are going to the indigenous people and saying, hey, we will pay for to chop down your part of the forest. And some of the indigenous people, they oblige, and it's not technically illegal, but it's a big gray area and it's extremely looked down on. So for some reason, we see this and the driver pulls straight up to the gate of this Chinese logging company, which is probably run by the syndicates. And all of a sudden guys come out from the sides and we're like, oh my God, oh my God. I was like, why did we pull in here? What is going on? Why did we do this? And so they're just looking at us menacingly. And then we reverse, we pull out onto the highway and we go straight across the highway. It just so happens right across the highway is a small military group that are patrolling the area. And I get out my drone and they ask for our passports and they're checking our stuff. And then they say, okay, we're cool. And I have my drone now. It's up in the air and I'm filming the Chinese logging company and everything they have there. And they are super pissed. They're furious, but they can't do anything about it because we're hanging out with the military right across the street. It's like, you can't do anything. No. And so I filmed them for quite a while, and it's insane to see how much logging they have there. These massive old growth trees that are just cut down and just rows and stacks of these trees. And they're going to be sent off to who knows where all over the world for the consumers and at insane prices, all for the cost of chopping down an entire indigenous people's forest. So they're not happy about it. And we decided to keep going up the road, not up the highway, but actually behind us and up the road past the military. And then we passed the Chicho Mafia logging. That's the first time we see that. And on the way there, we get we get a call, and everybody goes quiet, and I don't know what's going on because they're all speaking in Spanish. And I said, "What happened? What's going on?" And they said, "Oh, well, I can't name names, but the executive director of Darian National Park just died. Thankfully, he wasn't murdered. He had some disease, but all of a sudden, it just came down to this weird energy, And we keep driving up the road, and it ends at one place. There's only one place to go, and it's the most hellish migrant camp I've ever seen. And they say, "Okay, get out now and walk around." I'm like, oh, like everybody's getting out and walking around. I don't want to get out. I have thousands of dollars of photo gear and equipment. It's not a good idea for me to get out there. And they say, "Okay, get out anyway." And I'm going out and I'm photographing the worst things I've ever seen. I mean, tons of people that have huts made out of just sticks that they find, and they're burning gasoline to cook their food in these huge fires, and it looks like it's a hellscape. It's a bit of a hellscape, and everybody there looks exhausted and tired. And there are migrants there coming in from India, Africa, Nepal. How the hell are they getting here? This is Panama. How are they here? And I'm walking down, and I'm starting to see people eyeing my camera and my equipment, and I'm taking pictures. And the military, one military guy who were running the camp, they see me, they start yelling at me, "Hey, I don't know what he's saying, but I know it's something like, put your camera away." So I put my camera away, and I'm so very sorry, very sorry, very sorry, and then I go over to the commander, who we know, the commander that is with us, and then we're walking back, and these guys start to approach me, and I can tell they're trying to grab and run with my camera. So now I'm switching hands. I'm holding my camera tight. I'm making sure that my camera is inside my armpit, and I'm scrunched up next to the commander. I don't want anybody robbing me. I was looking for knives. I was looking for any type of weapon that they were going to use on me. And I was kind of ready for what was going to come. Thankfully, it never did come. They just walked by me when I switched hands and got closer to the commander. So that was kind of insane. And we were supposed to load up in boats right along the river there and go up the river to a different migrant camp. And it is filled. The whole river is just filled with trash and waste, and human waste and regular trash. It's real gross. They don't let us through. I think he got a little mad that I was photographing the migrant camp. I've never seen. I grew up, a really good portion of my life in the ghetto, and I've seen a lot of not things that people don't want to see. And that was by far the worst I've ever seen. That situation was absolutely horrific. And we go to another area. We talk to a different part of the military, and thankfully they're not really talking to each other. There's no communication going on in the walkie-talkies between them, and they don't know that they didn't want us to get in the river. And they tell us, "Oh yeah, National Geographic was here. They just went up river like not too long ago." It's like, oh, crazy. That's what a coincidence. They let us go, and we go up to the next migrant camp. And the next migrant camp is in a town that was already established. So all these migrants, the cartel is funneling all these migrants through Colombia in the Darian Gap into this town and into other areas as well. And we're being escorted around, and I'm filming everything I can. I'm photographing everything I can. And, we go and meet the military group that is established there. It's not as bad as the other camp. It's still pretty bad. And
sure.
So I'm filming. So all of a sudden I'm filming their leader and the military there. And what Max is telling me is, man, he's saying a bunch of bullshit. And they're trying to do good things there, apparently. But what Max is also telling me is that they actually extort the migrants themselves for like $5 a day from, all these different migrants. And they are saying, "Hey, we're doing good things there. We're doing good things here." But at the same time, they're literally extorting the migrants that are coming through there. So it's a really very strange situation. And then we basically get out of there, and by the time we come back and go down the other road, it's 10:30, and there's we can see that there's informants from the Chinese companies, and they're stationed on the roads, and they're saying, hey, these guys are going this way, they're going this way. We can see them pointing, and as soon as we come around the corner, they're like, they're here. That's what it looks like to me. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, are they going to follow us? What's going on? And by the time I get back to my hotel, I'm sleeping with my survival knife, and I'm thinking about every angle, every situation possible to defend myself. And fortunately, nobody comes through those doors in the middle of the night. That never happened. But it is something that is, if you're in that situation, it's on your mind. You're thinking, how can I survive this? What could they do? How many people? How can I assess the situation to survive the cartel coming to kill me, or the Chinese companies or syndicates coming to kill me? Like, how am I going to deal with that situation? And all I have is my survival knife. It's pretty large, but yeah, I mean, that's what it's like almost the whole time of being in Panama. Is we're being followed. We're being talked about. We're being monitored heavily by people that don't want us there. Yeah,
you're shining a big old flashlight on a place that doesn't want to be lit up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like going to Mexico, and let me tell you something. The narcos that are out there, they hate journalists. And there are specific factions that I know about that hate even musicians. They hate guitars. They don't want anybody singing. They don't want anybody being happy. They don't want anybody exposing anything they're doing. And it kind of felt like that situation, so that's kind of why it's absolutely one of the most beautiful places I have ever been in my entire life, especially the highlands of Panama. Unreal. But at the same time, yeah, incredibly dangerous and stressful.
But you handled it well.
Yeah. 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 I'm like, I want to go back. Why not?
No, you came back and were able to tell the story. So
yeah, thank God. There is a weird little addicting part of it where it's like, I survived. Can I survive again? I mean, I think I'd be fine, but cross my fingers. But yeah, there is a part of that kind of craves that danger again. It's very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to be the moth around the flame.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I know. I start to wonder. I start to wonder, if I come back in, oh, it's the dude with the half white mustache. He's back. Do they have my name? Do they have where I live? Do they have my flight number as I'm flying in? What do they have? I don't know what they have, but it's not like they're not well connected, because they're very well connected. And I don't want to do anything to piss them off intensely, but yeah, that's just the risk that comes with this part of the job. Yeah.
Pretty intense.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of photography, you are a conservation photographer. What does that mean?
So yeah, wildlife and conservation photography. That means I work on creating photos that protect the habitats and the species that I really care about. And that goes for all, wildlife conservation photographers. There are also cultural conservation photographers that like to photograph threatened and endangered cultures, which includes even their languages. So for me personally, I love animals. I love wildlife. It's something I've always grown up just obsessed with. And that translated into my passion later in life when I picked up a camera, and I realized this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and so it's not just, taking or making photos of animals, doing what they do. It's using images that it might include that, but it's using images that involve the biologist. Where I'm working with the biologist, I'm working with accredited organizations, nonprofit organizations, universities, and working with them to utilize images to forward conservation of a particular species or a particular area.
Well, you must be doing a good job because your photographs have appeared in many well-known publications. You've won many awards. And in fact, you're becoming a member of the International League of Conservation Photographers. What's that organization?
The International League of Conservation Photographers is basically, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn here or anything, but it's a group of the best, greatest, emerging, and established wildlife and cultural conservation photographers on the planet. And we are all working our asses off to make this world a better place. Yeah.
Well, actually, tooting your own horn, that's actually why I brought it up, because it is quite an honor, and it just shows the level of your work to be being brought into that organization. So good on you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I honestly, I worked for 9 years to feel good enough to even apply to be in that organization. Fortunately, I nailed it on my first try, and yeah, it's been a great journey ever since, for sure.
Okay, before we get too far down the road on this interview, we have as a custom on this show is to have you tell us a good drinking story. You got a good drinking story for us?
I got a good drinking story, man. Yeah. It's actually going to be about something that happened in the trip that I'm going to be talking about later in the podcast. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. But essentially, in Panama, we are going out into the middle of the jungle with, and I'm embedded with the Ranger Battalion there. And the Ranger Battalion is comprised of the indigenous people, the Embera Wunan. And I hope I'm saying that right, the Embera Wunan. And so I'm embedded with the Ranger Battalion there, and we're getting set up, and it comes nighttime, and it's just this gorgeous place in the middle of Darian National Park, and everybody gets to drinking. They start pulling out bottles. It's going around. I'm like, oh, okay, it's going down, and there's no fire or anything. It's just lights. It's the middle. It's not the middle of the night, but it is very, very dark, and okay, we're getting into it. So we're drinking, and then all of a sudden, I notice something crawling next to me. I go, what? And there's this tiny little crab. It's like this big, maybe 4 inches across, something like that. I said, where the hell did this crab come from? We're in the middle of the jungle, and there's a river not too far away from us, and apparently they start crawling out of the rivers, and they start populating the place. And I'm like, okay, this is really cool. And then I start seeing other little creatures crawling around. The jungle is absolutely crawling with life. It's insane. And I get to the point where there's so much wildlife. I'm like, okay, my drunk ass has to get up and grab my camera and start photographing everything I can at nighttime, So I'm walking around, I have my camera and have my flash, and I'm just clicking, hitting the flash, clicking, hitting this, And then one of the rangers, he's interested in what I'm doing, and even though I've been to South America a handful of times, I still don't speak Spanish. And so he comes over, he says something. My translator says he wants to walk you through the jungle and see what you can get. Okay, great. So he grabs his machete, and each guy has their own personal machete that's embellished with, little adornments, and they just look so cool. So we're walking through the jungle, and this little 5-foot dude is showing me all of the amazing little creatures that are around, and I just had a great time, drunk photographing all of the creatures in the forest, and whip scorpions and walking sticks, and I mean, we came across this toad that is literally the size of a football. I mean, it is this big. It's the most massive frog I've ever seen in my life, which is, and this toad, I try to get close to it, but it just dives into this burrowing hole that it has about this big. And, I never see it again. But, just basically drunk photographing all the creatures in the jungle at nighttime, just, and we hear, oh yeah, cartel just came into Darian National Park. They could be anywhere around here. It's a little tense, but I just had a great time. What can I say? Yeah, that was probably the only time I've ever drunk photographed anything. So it was a good time though. Yeah.
So how'd the images come out?
Amazing. Actually, it came out so good. I nailed them all. Yeah, I feel I don't want to say I should keep drunk photographing and everything, but I did produce some pretty great images out of that. Yeah.
Well, I think it was Hemingway. You said, write drunk, but edit sober. So maybe there's something there.
Write drunk. There might be something there. Maybe I'll be the first one to say photograph drunk, edit sober. Although I know a couple of focus. Yeah. I know a couple of photographers that like to drink and edit though. So teach their own.
Well, I am really fascinated about the work that you did down in Panama that you just referred to. But you were going down there on behalf of an organization called Global Conservation. What is that?
Global Conservation is an organization that I work for as the head editor, the manager of the Global Parks Network, and I also photograph and film for them. So it's a pretty great dream job. I worked for 11 years to get into this position, and thanks to my friend, National Geographic photographer Jen Guyton, for hooking me up with that position. Really appreciate her. Thanks, Jen, if you're watching. What Global Conservation does is we focus on our own program, called the Global Park Defense Program. And what we do is we work with local and indigenous peoples, and we empower them using technology and training to protect their own national parks that they live in. So over the course of my career, time and time again, I have seen organizations try to work without local and indigenous people, and it doesn't work. There's no case I've ever seen of it actually working. And when we hire those people, we employ those people, we give them the resources, we give them the technology, they are able to produce amazing results. And I feel very privileged to be a part of the Global Park Defense Program. So, we use the rangers to protect the rainforest, which protects the animals, and we're also focusing on threatened and endangered species like orangutans, pangolins, Komodo dragons, rhinos, elephants, you name it. Any of those big species, we are working to protect them, and of course the national parks that they're in. And another just a niche that Global Conservation fills, which nobody else in the world is doing right now, is protecting these paper parks. And what I mean by paper parks are national parks that are established but have no protection. So poachers are still coming in. They're still stripping the areas. They're stripping the wildlife. They're stripping forests, jungles, marine areas. It doesn't matter. And there's nobody to do anything about it. So we remedy that by working with local indigenous peoples. Yep.
Very good. And that work took you to Panama, did it not?
Yeah, it did. Sure did. Yeah. Yeah. Panama was, out of all the trips I've been on, Panama was, even though one of the shortest, it was a couple of weeks of me being there. It was the most stressful, the most dangerous, and the most intense. I mean, on the third day, I was like, I can't believe this is the third day. I mean, it was like, I remember the third day of actually being there, not just landing and sleeping, but the third day of actually being there, it was 10:30 in the morning. I had already gone through the most hellish migrant camp I've ever seen. being tailed by Chinese company informants. We passed by the Chicho Mafia logging, which we didn't stop. We were right next to it. We just drove right next to it. We're like, yeah, we're not going to stop here for video or anything. And they're just doing their thing. I don't want to bother them. We don't want to bother them. If I get out and start taking pictures, they're going to have problems. I'd gone through so much, by 10:30 in the morning, I couldn't believe we haven't even gotten to the afternoon yet. It was so. Anyway, that's just an example of what we're going to be talking about. And man, yeah. Anyway, so that was a hell of an experience for sure.
So, what was the purpose of going down there?
The purpose of going down there was to film primarily and photograph 2 different national parks that we are protecting. One is Darian National Park, which has a crazy amount of cartel and human trafficking going through it. And the other one is the Nassau province, which is regulated by the Naso people. And so Darian is on the very, very right of Panama, and then the Nassau is on the very, very left of Panama. And so, and then I was traveling up and down through the country for multiple days while we're trying to find basically just poaching areas.
So you're going down there to assist and photograph, and there's also an counter poaching component to it, correct?
There's the counter poaching component to it, yes. So the indigenous people in Panama, the rangers, professional rangers, aren't even allowed to have guns. And so it becomes a little bit of a problem for them to patrol efficiently when they don't have guns. And what that means is they have to partner with both military and police to actually get stuff done. So they'll go out and they'll find poached areas. They'll retrieve the information, and then they will partner with the military and police, who then in special cases, when they have enough evidence, go out and find the poachers, find illegal mining, and they will stop them. And I've seen the videos of it. It's pretty impressive what they do. So
now that jungle is known as some of the harshest, most difficult in the world. Can you describe the jungle environment that you were going into?
Oh yeah, it's like, brother, oh my goodness. I remember when I first got to Darian, and it was 3 days of traveling by boat, on foot. And when I say boat, I mean, canoes with motors, backs of cattle trucks. And I eventually got the nickname All Terrain. They called me All Terrain because I am down for anything. There's whatever it is flying or on a boat or hiking or whatever. I'm down. And I'm having a good time. And they were telling me that a lot of people that come here, they get this deep into the jungle and then they start freaking out. It's hellish. And there's documentaries, David Attenborough saying, if you walk into the 50 feet into this jungle, you're going to disappear. I always thought that was bullshit. I was like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. As soon as I got to Darian, they drop us off and I'm exploring the jungle. I'm looking around. I'm still on the trails that the indigenous people use. If I walk 50 feet into that jungle, I'm screwed. I'm totally screwed. I knew that immediately. As soon as I took a step off the trail, I looked, I'm like, I would not be able to turn around and find my way back if I could not see a trail. I'm going to be absolutely screwed. And it is full of things that want to eat you. It's about 100 degrees. It's 100% humidity. And, but it is amazing. It's gorgeous. You're sweating constantly. All the vitamins and minerals are coming out of your body. You're always rehydrating so that you're not going to pass out or something. It's pretty incredible. And the first thing that I saw, which I was really excited about, were leafcutter ants. And leafcutter ants, and I feel like in the States, wildlife lovers really love leafcutter ants. They're so cool, and there's so many documentaries about them. And I forget that they're not actually friendly. We portray them as friendly. And so I'm getting close up to these massive columns of ants that are, carrying the little leaves and having a good time. And I'm photographing them. All of a sudden they're up my leg. They're biting the shit out of me. And it's like, oh no. And everything there wants to eat you, like absolutely everything. It's, we know there's jaguars in the area. I'm not too worried about them though. And, people hardly see them when they do. It's usually just crossing the trail. But the mosquitoes there, unbearable. I've never experienced mosquitoes like that in my entire life. If you stop, they'll follow you while you're hiking. If you stop for a second, literally a second, they're all over you because they catch your scent and they follow you through the jungle. And they love to tear you up. I mean, I have scars all over, up and down my legs now, and on my back from being hundreds of bites from mosquitoes. It's a beautiful environment, but it is super dangerous. It's dirty. It is dark, like really dark in some cases. If you go off the trail, you're totally screwed. You're sweating bullets, but you're also covering. I mean, I'm covering myself in bug spray and still getting bitten. So anyway, I know that's a long explanation of the jungle, but that's kind of the.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful, but it's you pay a price. When we went to Borneo, I actually went into some army surplus store and got the special DEET that they had. It was probably off the charts and probably caused cancer. I don't know, but I was lathering up with that as we were going through just to keep the mosquitoes at least to a tolerable level.
Absolutely. Yep.
But then the leeches were always fun.
Yeah.
The leeches were always fun.
Yeah, it's like, what's that? This will give me cancer? I don't care. Put it on. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, am I going to get? What did I say? I asked my translator, am I going to get malaria? He said no, but you might get another disease that'll kill you. I can't remember at the time, but it's like, oh, okay, so not malaria, but something else that can kill me. It's okay.
Yeah, you get that bone crushing disease that ooh, that's nasty down there.
Yeah.
So you're going in there. You're in a country with the indigenous people, and a lot of people doing a lot of illegal things that they don't want other people to find out about. So they're watching you guys pretty close. Now, going back to the counter poaching battalion, did they take you out into the field and show you how they do their work?
Yeah, then I follow them out on these trails, and we're looking for harpy eagles, this basically white and black phoenix that lives in the middle of the jungle. And we found one. It was pretty awesome. And, they're showing us their tracking and what they're looking for. They didn't really want to take us too far because some of the cultures that we work with are worried about, I'm not sure if they are necessarily worried about this, but some of the cultures that we work with are worried about us encountering a bad situation, and they're not unable to protect us because they don't have guns or something like that. So they're not showing me too much, but enough to get my filmmaking done. Yeah.
Now
I actually, real quick, sorry. I will say with the Naso people, I went out on a full patrol with them, and we did actually find a huge area of poached forest. But I could talk about that later. Yeah.
Well, you're a tracker yourself, so with that expert eye, how did you see them tracking? How were they able to track through the jungle?
It's really impressive. I'll say that I feel like the Naso people are better trackers than the Embed, and they are these tiny people that are just smashing through the jungle, and they're picking up little things here and there. And I'm still learning about. I'm used to tracking in the States. I've tracked mountain lions for 3 years, with an organization, and I've tracked large carnivores for a long time, and what they do there in this thick, dense jungle is completely different. It's a whole new way of tracking, and my tracking skills do serve me, but they're seeing things that I could never pick up. I'll never see. And the jungle is so thick that it's hard to comprehend the little minute details that you see either in the mud or even just, cuts on blades of grass or, waves in the leaves, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. Like, basically we went out after we found the poaching area. We go out and we make sure there's no more poachers in the area because we're not trying to get screwed, right? Obviously, we're not trying to get in trouble. We're not trying to get shot. And we keep going into this jungle and we are disappearing into absolutely just nowhere. We're already in the middle of the jungle and we're going further out into it's so deep. I'm almost like losing these little guys who are blasting up these huge hills on the side of a mountain. And I'm trying to keep up with them. It's like incredible. And then we come across a sign that is set by another one of the Naso people. And the signal is meant to say whether or not the poachers are still in the area. And I can't like show that or describe what it was, but I would have never noticed it at all. It looks like another part of the forest that you're just walking past, and he takes out his machete and he starts cleaning it off of this stone and this rock, and you're just like that clean, like cleaning everything off. And he's showing the rest of these Naso people, of which there are only like 3,500 left, that he's been there, he's seen it, and he's going to relay his own signal. And they use tracking not only to find animals and poachers, but also to send signals to each other. And it's really, I've never seen anything like it. It's really, really impressive. And
so they're leaving messages in the middle of the jungle for other people to come across and just pass on the information.
Yes, exactly. For other Naso people. So it's only the Naso people who understand these little signals that they leave in the jungle. And even as I don't want to say I'm an expert or a master tracker or anything like that, because I'm not, but I feel very experienced in my tracking, and I would have never realized the signal that they put there. It's just another form of a completely other discipline and form of tracking that isn't talked about in textbooks. It's not talked about in any tracking book I've ever seen, and they're utilizing tracking in a whole new way I've never seen before. It's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Tell me about the wildlife that you encountered.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes of being in Darian National Park, other than the leafcutter ants, first 20 minutes of being at base camp, I see spider monkeys. I see green parrots, scarlet macaws. There's toucans, just calling each other all over the forest. I mean, it's unbelievable. The birding there is incredible. I've never been anywhere in my life that has the amount of biodiversity that it has in Darian National Park. Nowhere. I mean, it's incredible. And then at nighttime, crabs walking everywhere. Like I mentioned before, all of these little creatures, spiders the size of your hand, of all these different colors, walking around and doing their thing. And then of course looking for the harpy eagle. So, we're on the hunt for a couple of days to look for this harpy eagle nest. And we find there and we get it because we hear it's an active nest site, and it's not there. The fledgling isn't there. It's already fledged. And this sucks. I'm like, oh my God, we're never going to see this thing. And we're supposed to be very quiet. And, one of the guys that's with us, it was wearing this bright red shirt, and he's just talking loudly. And, I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. We're never going to see this thing. But what actually happens is this guy's loud talking draws in the juvenile, and all of a sudden I see this huge silhouette of a bird flying straight over the jungle canopy. I'm like, oh my God, it's here. I'm like telling the guys, oh my God, it's here. And then it crashes into the canopy above us, but we're still looking. We're looking up. We can't see anything. And then it flies over, and unfortunately we can finally see it, but the sun is right behind it. So we're looking straight up at this thing. and it's looking down on us and the sun behind us. And as you know, as a photographer, that is the worst possible situation to be in to photograph a bird of prey of this rarity. It's an extremely rare, endangered animal that, you know, it's the king of it's the aerial king of the jungle. These harpy eagles, their talons are the size of my hand, just the talons. And they hunt and kill howler monkeys and other monkeys. And howler monkeys are no joke. We also saw howler monkeys as we're going up the river on these boats, and they are no joke. I mean, probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 pounds, these howler monkeys, if I had to guess. And they are grabbing these things and flying off with them. And they're also hunting sloths, which are, you know, pretty large, like cat size. And they bring them to their nest. So seeing this kind of phoenix of the jungle was amazing.
Now, you had an encounter with a king. Can you tell us about that?
We get to the Naso village, which is just the middle of absolutely nowhere again, you know, and immediately we're thrown into a council meeting. So they have a palace there, and it's not the palace type of palace you're thinking of. It is a very old traditional palace, maybe 50 feet across in diameter, and it's made of like straw, I don't know, vegetation made, you know, found in the forest. It's not like a traditional palace. And the floor, the whole floor, which is this kind of red clay, is filled with bees' nests. So bees are just coming out of the ground the entire time you're in this area. And we're thrown into the mix. They're having a council meeting, and hey, they're saying we're here, and I'm not talking. I'm trying to film the best I can, and I see the king on his throne. You know, his throne is just one massive piece of wood that was carved into a throne, and the top of it has a harpy eagle, and there are two massive pumas that rise on the sides of him that go towards his shoulders, like what he's leaning on. And the two pillars in front of him of the throne also have pumas on them. They are pumas. The pillars are pumas. And I quickly go up to him. I meet him. I shake his hand. Hi, how's it going? You know, and it's very nice to meet you. And then I go and sit down. And, you know, it's just like, holy crap, like I met a king. And I'm kind of just like, oh my God. It is one of the last, you know, recognized kings left on earth. They still have this monarchy there, and they go through everything, you know, they go through the council, and I'm looking forward to photographing this king. I'm really looking forward to photographing him. And we go, and they all of a sudden they say, hey, we want you to, or excuse me, they didn't ask nicely. They said, you're filming us now. You're going to film our stories. We want to tell stories right now, of how we came to be, how we established our comarca. So they just got the rights to their own land only 2 years ago, and it was recognized by the government of Panama. And so they're telling the stories about how that came to be, and they're singing and they're dancing, and I'm filming all of this. They said, hey, you're filming right now. Oh, okay, right on. So we're going, and then I have the king in the background almost the entire time that the people are telling these stories, and he's looking very kingly. You know, he's sitting on his throne going like this. He's looking around. It just feels like a king. It feels like how a king would act and be in silence. He's just very yes, and just you over there. He's making gestures. You over there, do that. You know, and it's like it's kind of crazy to watch. You know, it's kind of so. It was really amazing and really cool. And you know, at the end of it, they made me an honorary member of the Naso tribe, which was when that was translated to me, I was dumbfounded. I was like shocked that they would say something that amazing, and just it just is such a privilege to, you know, be an honorary, you know, member of that tribe now. And anyway, so that was it. And hopefully I go and meet them again. We're trying to make something happen right now. Yeah.
Well, you talk about those folks that are conservationists as far as cultures and people. It'd be great to have them go in and preserve all those stories, so that they don't get lost.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I know there are some videographers and filmmakers that have worked with them before, but the footage is few and far between. And for basically an endangered people with essentially an endangered language, it would be incredibly interesting. And man, that's actually a good idea. Maybe I should talk to somebody about that at the ISCP. Yeah.
It brings back when I was in Guatemala on some humanitarian projects. There was a story that was told to me. An old woman had just died a month or two before. And the unfortunate part was she was the last Mayan to play this particular Mayan instrument. And she was the last one. And so when she died, all that music died with her. In fact, the instrument died with her. And it was so sad because, all that history. And I was talking to a local folklorist who I was trying to work with to preserve some of these stories. And, he's shaking his head is that the cultures are being bulldozed by modernity, and it's being lost so fast. All the origin stories, the history of different peoples, and it's at an incredible rate. It's very sad at what knowledge and just art has been lost.
Yeah, it's sad and disturbing for sure. I mean, I can't tell you how many times where I have heard of situations or seen situations of an endangered people. These are the last, language speakers of this particular language. These are the last people of this particular people.
One of the things I want to talk to you also about is your work with the condors. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So, as you know, I'm a big bird fan, and when I heard about flying dinosaurs, these California condors that live semi near me, 3.5 hours, something like that, and I really wanted to see them and tell their story and do something about them. And they're, people will say they're ugly, but they're the full adults. They have their heads are the colors of sunsets, yellow and pink and magenta and red and orange. And I mean, it's just gorgeous. They have these gorgeous heads, and they're stark black and white. And, people say, oh, look, it's a condor. And they're referring to a turkey vulture. I'm like, when you see a condor, you're going to know it is a dinosaur flying through the air. They're so big. And I couldn't help but just be drawn towards them. I keep being drawn towards them. And even though for the first 4 years of conservation, my own personal journey with the conservation of these animals, I was kind of rejected by the condor community so many times because it's such a niche, tight-knit community of people that want to make sure that you're doing the right things for the right reasons. And the very first time I actually ever saw a condor was thankfully through Ventana Wildlife Society, who has had a massive hand in restoring condor populations after they went effectively extinct in the wild in 1987, which is when I was born. So 36 years ago, the last few were taken out of the wild and placed into the Condor Recovery Program. And through the Condor Recovery Program, they have been re-released into the wild. And, there are about 350 free-flying condors between 3 different states right now. And so still just a tiny, tiny amount. They are critically endangered. And I have been able to create pieces. So I've been able to create articles in magazines that highlight the condors and talk about the importance of not just the condors, but supporting endangered species that live within national parks, because the Endangered Species Act was created in a massive way for originally the California condors. And by spreading the word of simply going to a national park that has endangered species, which is the vast majority of them, you are supporting the research and the conservation of that species. All the money that you spend on the tickets, on the merchandise, whatever you're getting in that national park, the money goes towards protecting endangered species. In this case, where I spend a lot of time in Pinnacles National Park.
Well, I mean, the condor, when you see it in person, I mean, it's hard to describe. It's huge. It's the largest bird in North America, right?
Right. So 9 to 10 foot wingspan,
Yeah.
I'd say the really, really big ones are around they're 10 feet. They say 9.5, but you can't discern the difference. It's this massive animal, and they're so intelligent too. They will look you straight in the eye. If you're one of the last people on top of Pinnacles National Park, you're not scared of walking by yourself, in the dark to hike back down the mountain to get to camp. If you stay there and you're lucky enough to have them fly right by you, like 15, 20 feet away, they will look you right in the eyes. They'll look you right in the eyes, and all of a sudden you realize this is more than just an animal. This is a completely sentient creature that understands, I don't know, the more complex, just the complexities of life. And it's like I've said before, I feel like I'm a soul living a human experience, and I feel like what I'm watching is a soul living a condor experience. And it's just, there's something weird about the recognition, the way they identify you, the way they react to you, to people, that is really odd. But the first time I ever saw condors was with Ventana Wildlife Society. So I kind of skipped over this, and we get up to the secret research site in the middle of the Santa Lucia Mountains, and all of a sudden there's 30 or 40 condors flying in the air right in front of me. I'm like, oh my God, because I hear how big they are, but then you don't understand how big they are until you see them in front of you. And the biologists are doing blood workups to make sure that they're not being poisoned by lead ammunition that are fragments that explode inside of the carcasses that they eat, and they're handling the condors, and then they release the condors, and the condors, they don't just like fly away. Some of them do, but many of them will hop on top of the facility, and they'll start looking, and they're curious. They're looking, and they want to watch, and they want to learn and experience what's going on. They're not just animals that are just scared of humans and they want to just fly away. They are genuinely interested and so intelligent and so curious about what's going on and what we are doing to them, which is simply trying to help them. It's really amazing.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what's coming up for you? What are your next projects that are coming up?
Yes. So we're getting ready for the release of Wingspan, which is the short film that they made about me. And I'm going to be, I was going to be going back to Panama, but it looks like there's some complications that came up. There's always just a shit show in Panama. I'm sorry to anybody that offends, but I mean, truly, it's kind of a shit show. And so there's complications that have arose. So we're kind of paused on that. In June, I'm going out with Michael Westberg, who is an incredible photographer, very prominent in the photographer community. And we're going out to Africa to Ngorongoro National Park to film and photograph elephants that raid people's farms at nighttime. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's kind of a problem, but we want to try to solve it. We're going to be working with the rangers. We're going to be working with the local people. And it's going to be the first time I've ever seen an elephant in the wild as well. So really looking forward to that. That's in June. And I'm trying to think of anything else coming up right now. I know I have like 6 projects at any given time, but yeah, so those, that's what I'm really looking forward to right now. Also I'm going to be going out to Baja to do some marine underwater filming and stuff like that. I'm really looking forward to that. No date set on that, but that's coming up. And just chipping away at the condor conservation stuff for sure.
Cool. Now, for people who want to see your work and follow you, how would they do that?
Sure, yeah. So you can follow me at Instagram. I don't post on there very much, so just warning you right now. But Tidal Walker, see Tidal Walker, kind of like Skywalker. I'm a big fan of Star Wars. I love the ocean, so I just Tidal Walker. So just Tidal Walker on Instagram. You can look me up on Facebook, Joshua Asel, Asel. You can go to my website, joshasel.com. Yeah, if anybody wants to hit me up, feel free to hit me up. I'm always down to help photographers with technicalities or travel questions or whatever. But yeah, you can find me there.
Very nice. Very cool. All right, Josh, this has been a great conversation, and be safe out there. We've really enjoyed it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, not too safe though. Otherwise I don't get good pictures.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you on down the road.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you down the road when we get together again, share a glass of whiskey, and hear more stories of adventure as told by those who live them. Until then, check us out at michaeljreinhardt.com, where you'll find more of my work as an adventure photojournalist. Photos, videos, and articles of interesting people, mysterious places, and exotic cultures from the wild places of the world.